Carole McCulloch has been around helping other people with pathways for as long as there have been pathways. She is a wealth of knowledge that she has shared and disseminated throughout District 73. She is a past District 73 Toastmaster of the Year. Please welcome the one, the only, the beautiful Carole McCulloch.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Michael. What a lovely introduction. I'm very honoured with those words and much appreciating your thoughts behind them. Welcome, everyone. I will try to impart some of my knowledge once again for you today at a different level. But first, I'd like to ask you a question, and you can answer it by putting your answer into the text chat area. Are you a base camp manager? That is, are you the president, the VPE, or the secretary of your club? Or perhaps you are in those roles for more than one club. Would you please just add that into the chat panel for me? Today,
can I just interrupt? My chat has been disabled, so I can't post anything there. Oh. Okay, it's on now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that tip. Yes, now that you have your chat panel back, please go ahead and just add that in. I know that some of you may be feeling a little bit at sea if this is a new role for you. You're not sure what to do as a base camp manager.
Sorry, chat is again disabled.
So what I'm going to do today is go through the steps that you can take to fulfill your role as a base camp manager. There will be opportunities for questions at the end, but thank you for putting all of that into the chat. I can see that happening. So several people are base camp managers. To explain your roles, I'm going to share my screen with you today, and I have some slides all ready to go, because it will give you the visuals that you need for the roles being unpacked today. And I have already sent a copy of these slides to Christina, and they will be made available for you. You may like to use them to help yourself later or to help other base camp managers in your clubs. What I will do today is step through several stages of your roles. And the first one is all about your base camp tasks. And we've just been listening to questions about what happens when you as a member complete levels and projects. So this will give you the other end of that to show what happens when the VPE, the secretary, or the president receive your level completion request. And that hinges upon you being able to go to that page in your transcript in Basecamp to fill in the self-assessment at the end. And at the end of the level, you need to finalize the level completion. So all of those steps need to be done by the members. So when you go to toastmasters.org, you need to log in as the Basecamp manager this time. If you haven't been there yet, you'll see it soon. When you go through to Pathways, you'll see which club you have permissions to be Basecamp manager, and then you would log in as the Basecamp manager. It's different to logging in as a member because you see different things. So once you've logged in, you would then see the Basecamp management area with these familiar blue tiles. And the one that I think you should begin with, if your role is new, is the tutorials, the manager tutorials. There's a wealth of information in there that will help you step through your roles in completion, level completion verification, and other things. We'll come back to the other two blue tiles later in the presentation. Once you're in the tutorials, you have several options. So it's quite a lot of information that's being provided for you by Toastmasters International. The one that we want to focus on today is that level completion, because pretty soon in your role, you'll need to do these steps as people move through their path and complete each level. The thing that you want to do first in the tutorial is to find out how you respond to the level completion requests, which is what the member needs to do. And it will come to you as an email. If they have done that step in their path, in their level, you as the Basecamp manager will receive a notification by email. Or you may be just talking to your members, of course, and they will tell you that they have completed that level completion request. You can go into the tutorial to work through how you respond to that. And this is what it looks like inside the tutorial. There's a little menu there that you can choose to give you those options to go through and find out what's involved. And what happens at this point is that you're given a bit of a scenario that this person, Louis, is the VPE and he needs to respond to a level completion, and it will step you through as if you were he. And so the first thing that you would do is read what these level completion requests are all about. It's too small to read the writing on there. I'm just highlighting what's in the tutorial for you. You can read about what's required of you in the read more here, and then you can go directly into the little tutorial that shows you how to respond. So what I've done today is I've taken some of the screen images from the tutorial to step you through the process, which I hope will make it simple. They do provide you with a little note that they advise you do this level completion verification within 48 hours if you can. And within that completion request process, you can write a short note to the member, letting them know if you have approved and congratulate them. And they can read that when they come back into Basecamp. You may find in checking through to ensure that you are correct in having completed the level, the Basecamp manager can also go into your transcript and just double check that you have done everything. So it's an advice there to do that. And finally, you get some advice on how you can print the certificate for that member. And you can do that by accessing it in their transcript. And I'll show you that in just a moment. So let's get into how do we respond to level completion requests. So this is the screen you would see when you go into the tutorial. I do advise you having a look at that because it's quite well done. The first tile that you... I'm sorry if I'm boring you. The first tile that you would use is the pending requests, which is the one on the left. And you need to click into that as Basecamp manager. Now, unless someone has completed a level, you won't see any notifications in there. I'll just make that a little bigger so you can see an example. But if there has been a level completion, that person's name will appear and it will have the name of the project and it will have the date and it will have these two little options at the right-hand side, either approve it with a green tick or disapprove with the red X. So when you have had a look at, in this case, it's Martin Eckert from the Bright and Early Toastmasters Club. When you've had a look at his level completion, you can then go back and verify or decline. There's a couple of steps in here that you can be aware of. Mostly it's a streamlined process that allows you to just verify. And this is all you need to do. Click the green check mark on the right-hand side. That then gives you a pop-up box where you can put in your text, and this is the piece of text that the member will see. You can say, congratulations, this has been approved by your VPE, and then you click the submit button. So it's a fairly technical set of processes to do for this verification of level completion. But once that is done, then you can move to the next step, which is the more important one, which is to apply for the award in Club Central, which I'll cover also today. Prior to doing that, you may want to then go ahead and print the certificates for the member from Basecamp. And I like doing that because you can then present it to them at a club meeting. So in the tutorial that you'll find in the Basecamp management area, you can also visit the tutorial for printing the certificates. So I'm going to step you through that little process today as well. So this is what the screen looks like. And we'll step through with some of the screen imagery. When you are in that area, you would select from the top list, or the top icon, if you like, the name of your member who has sent you the message that they've completed a level. And as soon as you start typing a name, it should pop up below. And then you can select that person's name to go to the next step. So in this case, it was Martin Eckert, who actually is the club Sergeant at Arms. The next thing that you need to do is to go to the actual paths and learning for that member. So in this page, I'm using my own club president, Peter Kenyon, as an example to show you what it should look like. So in this case, Peter has 2 paths that he's working on, and the current level completion has been in one of those. And in this case, visionary communication. So you would then go to the open curriculum icon on the right-hand side. So you're actually allowed to look into the transcript with certain permissions for your member. Once you get to the curriculum, you then see their progress. So this is the sort of thing that Christina was talking about before. When you see your transcript, you'll see these familiar ticks on the left-hand side to say that you've completed the level. And the Basecamp manager can also see those. They can't go in any deeper than that other than to view the details and print the certificate. So that's the next step. You as Basecamp manager would click on the view details icon for that level. You can then see what has been completed in that level. So all the ticks are in place, and you can then view the training details to see the certificate. So it's a bit of digging down deep as you come into the transcript. After you've done it a few times, it becomes much more simplistic. When you click on the view details, a pop-up box gives you the information about that level, and at the bottom of that it says print certificate. And that's what you can do. Print the certificate of completion for that member. What I advise then is that you present it to that member at the next club meeting. what that does is really help the member feel that they are achieving something worthwhile and that it is valued by the club. And it gives them the incentive to go on to the next level and do a further certificate of completion. It also has a great impact on the club members themselves, and they can see what others are achieving and be inspired by each of them. And once you've done those two steps, so you've been through and you've completed the level completion verification, and you printed the certificate, that's the first half of your job done. And when you come back, you could make a point of having a look at tutorials on things like path completion in printed materials. You may have members in your club who are doing a path in print format, and there's a different process for verification for them. There's also a tracking progress tutorial that you can have a look at, but I'll step you through some of that today as well. The next stage for the Basecamp manager is to go to Club Central and request the award. Let me just fill in a little bit of information for you. Once you've done the verification process, that triggers the education portal in Toastmasters with that information for the member. So it's a very important step that you do that first. If you try to go to Club Central and then request the award before you've done all that, it just won't appear. So Club Central is one of those places in Toastmasters organisation that the Basecamp managers should become familiar with. You may have already been there to have a look at other pieces of administration you can do for your club. This is how you do the request for an award. You would log in as usual, and you would go to Leadership Central, which you can see here, and then you would find Club Central. But just to help you along, if you also go to Club Officer Tools, you'll find that there's a tutorial on using Club Central. Perhaps you're worried that you won't remember anything that I've said today. You can go back into that tutorial to find out how to run the Club Central. But I'm going to step you through the process. It's really quite simple. Well, she says simple, but I've done it a few times. If you use that tutorial, you would select the club membership option to run through the Club Central tutorial. And the first thing that you would want to find in Club Central is the option called Submit Education Awards. In that panel, you first need to select the member. Of course, coming in as a member into Toastmasters International, the system already knows that you are the Basecamp manager and will allow you into Club Central, but it will also allow any other executive to do these steps. So you might want to think about giving someone else on your committee the job of submitting the education awards. Once you've selected the member, and you'll see that in a pop-up box, and you would then select the name of the person in your club for whom you are requesting the award. Underneath that, another segment then appears called Select the Education Program. When you click into that one, it still shows all of the old program information, such as Competent Communicator, but the most important thing is the pathways, and that one will appear right at the top of the list for that particular member. In this case, we're applying for the award of level 2 for the path presentation mastery, and it is in English. So you would then select that program for that member. You then have 2 pieces of information. You have the member and you have the actual education program award. You can, of course, review that. If you've made a mistake, the next step will allow you to backtrack and edit either the member's name or the education award. The next and final step here is to click the Submit Award. There are a couple of extra pages that show up in there where you're asked if you want to send that information to an employer, etc. And you may want to click yes or no there. Good idea to ask the member before you do that. Once you've submitted the award, it will pop up this box to say that it has been submitted, and you can either return to Club Central to look at other administrative tasks or submit another award straight away. It's fairly quick. I've noticed recently when I've done these that as soon as, or maybe a minute or 2 after this popped up, I receive an email to say that the award has been presented to that member. So that part of the process is all very technical, and you'll get used to it the more of these that you do. And I think it's more important at the end of each Toastmaster year to really look carefully at what awards you need to request so that your club can earn Distinguished Club Program Awards, which are all part of the next part of the VPE tasks. The ones that I've just been through could be done by the President or the Secretary, but I think that these 3 really need to be done by the VP of Education. And if you're new at the role of VP Ed, you already know that it's fairly full on and you've got quite a number of things to do. So get help wherever you can, technically and with other people. So the 3 things that I'm suggesting you should be able to do are these. Use a club management tool to record the projects. And Michael mentioned EasySpeak. That's one of my favorites, but there are other ways to do it. Secondly, provide an update on the path progress for your members. Quite often, members will move through their path and not be really sure where they're up to, but it's up to you as the VPE to keep track of all that for them. And finally, to display the club achievements in this Distinguished Club Program. So let's step through these. It won't take very long. Your club member pathways records can be created in a number of ways. This is my own workbook matrix from EasySpeak. So if you've used EasySpeak for your club management tool, you'll know that every time a member does a speech, it's recorded automatically and can be seen in the club charts as a green tick. This is a little small for you to read in detail, but you'll notice that there are 5 paths that I've been working on. 4 have been finished, and the 5th one is in progress, and you can see some gaps in the green ticks. So that's one way to ensure that the VPE is on top of the club member pathways records. There's a really nice tool in EasySpeak called Pathways Charts. But what if you don't have that? You could go to the individual progress dashboard in Basecamp. Another job that you could allocate to one of your Basecamp managers. Again, there is a tutorial for that, but I'm going to step you through this very simply. This time you're using the middle blue tile called Member Progress. In here, it will give you several pages of information, and it looks like a chart or a graph. And although it's too small to read in detail, the first 3 bars indicate that one path has been done by one person, another path by another person, and the third path is being done by 2 people. You need to update this information when you go into the individual progress area, and you can do that to ensure that it's showing the latest information. It gives you a little tick mark that you can show to update each of the individual progress pages. And the next thing you can do is go to the details for each one to show the names of the people who are actually doing those projects. Now that's way too small for you to read, but it indicates for me and shows me the name of the person doing those paths. So that's another way that you can see the progress of each of your members using Basecamp. Another way to do it is in a spreadsheet. And this neat tool was created some time back by someone in District 69, and I use it for my club. And it shows the path currently being worked on, the level currently being worked on in the middle column, and the projects that they're doing. And in that spreadsheet, it's a simple matter of selecting each of the levels, and it automatically fills it in for you. It's rather like a database inside a spreadsheet. So if you're interested in that, I can share more with you later. You may, of course, keep records in pen and paper. Some people still do that. But whatever you choose, you need to be able to reply to your members to give them an update on their progress. And the final thing for you to do is to use the dashboard in International to show the results of the level completions and how they've affected each club in gaining points. So what I've done here is I've gone across to District 73 and I've drilled down through the divisions to my area and picked up the information for 3 of my clubs. So this first club is looking for a level 1 completion to create that final point, as you can see here on the right-hand side. Another club is looking for even more level completions, level 1s, level 2s, and level 4 and 5. And of course, this will vary depending on the maturity of your club and how far your members have gone with their path. And the third club is just looking for a level 2 completion and a level 4 completion here. Being familiar with the dashboards is another role that you should consider in giving reports back to your club. If you haven't yet been there, go to Dashboards Toastmasters and find out a little more about your own progress. So coming to an end now, I'm hoping that I'm within time to allow a couple of questions, but you really need to focus in on your roles as a Basecamp manager in order to achieve success for your club and help your members achieve success, and celebrate with them as you go. It's quite an involved set of tasks that you do, but they're infrequent. It's not as if you're doing them all the time. By following these steps that I've carefully described for you today, you can build your confidence as a Basecamp manager. So let's just recap on the 3 things that I've taught you today. The first is you need to be able to verify level completion for your members in Basecamp. Most important. Secondly, you need to know how to request an award at Club Central. And thirdly, how to keep records for your members and your clubs and display them for each of your members. So I hope this has helped giving you some information about the roles of a base camp manager. I hope I haven't frightened you off, but now is the time for some questions. And remember that these slides are available for you. And I've also recorded this as a separate presentation. I think it's about a 20-minute video, and you can have that as well. So I can see a hand raised, so I'm going to stop sharing and ask Anne to vocalize her question. Go ahead, Anna.
Okay. In regard to printing the certificate, only have a black and white printer. Is there a way to convert the certificate file into a PDF and take it to Officeworks and use a color printer? But at home, I would not be able to do that. It's only black and white, my printer.
Yes, I had that same problem myself, Anna.
Okay.
And what I do there is I very carefully delegate that to someone else who's got a colour printer.
Okay.
Or, as you say, go to Officeworks. So you can actually put that onto a memory stick and take it to Officeworks.
That was my question.
And you might take that a step further if you like, once you've printed it and laminate it. And
Yeah,
it becomes
sure.
something that is a nice feature of your meeting. But thanks for that question.
Yeah.
Any other hands up, Michael?
Yes, we have Gary Chapman.
Go ahead,
Unmute
Gary.
yourself and ask your question, Gary.
Thanks, Carol. I thought that presentation was terrific. And as VP at my club, you took me into areas I haven't visited yet. So I'd love to get all of your slides and all of the material that you have available. So perhaps that can be shared later. But something that hasn't cropped up in any of the sessions I've had, and I use this all the time, is something called the Pathways Matrix. And I'd like to share the screen if I can, if that's available. Perhaps Michael can allow me to share the screen to show people what it looks like, because it's something that I look at pretty well every time I log on as Pathways Manager. Do I have a screen sharing authority, Michael?
I have no idea. I shall find out. I think Christina.
Whilst we're getting that set up, Gary,
Yep,
where
that's set up now.
matrix?
Beg your pardon?
Where is the Pathways matrix?
Well, it doesn't exist in Toastmasters International. A club must have devised it.
Oh, I'm with you now, yes.
And I'll share my screen now. This is it.
Not
And-
sent yet. Not sent yet.
And I wish I had this before I ever started Pathways, because it across the top you'll see all of the 11 Pathways options.
We can't
Gary.
see that, Gary.
Not sharing yet.
Oh, isn't it sharing? You okay now?
Coming into view now.
Yep.
Okay. Across the top, we've got all the Pathways options, the 11 of them. And vertically, we've got all of the projects all nicely parceled up. And the fantastic thing is, if you went, for example, into dynamic leadership, you could look right down in one glance and see what you've got ahead of you, and perhaps discover that you've got to do a 20-minute keynote address at the end or something like that. And I find that immensely useful, both for my own pathway and when I look at what other people have got to do, we can see what's ahead of them. And I guess one of the weaknesses that I found with Pathways itself from Toastmasters, particularly early, it really only unveiled what was ahead of you as you completed each level. And that at times had been frustrating. So anyway, I'm just pointing out to people that that's there. I found it useful, others may also. And if you want that shared, I can easily send you a copy.
Thank you so much, Gary. That is brilliant, because we do tend to work around when we see a problem. We need to have a tool that will solve that problem. And you've given us a third one today. I particularly like the spreadsheet that allows me to choose the level and the project and put that in place. And I can simply print off a page of that to give out to my members. But I'm a big fan of Easy Speak because it's all done inside the project pathways tasks, and I don't have to do anything. Are there any other questions from the floor today?
Annie Martin has a question.
Yeah, yes, thank you. My question is probably the perennial one that's always asked, but that's with members of multiple clubs and how to, other than really manually chat to each member and ask them to change their home club and to look, is there some way that it could be reviewed that BPEs actually have a little bit more oversight of what their members are doing when they are in multiple clubs?
Yeah, that's a good question, Annie, and it does create more work for the busy VPE. Communication is the answer, and education comes with that. And you might want to run a brief little session for a club to show what they need to do. It could be 5 minutes. It could be one of your projects.
As a member of 3 clubs, I know exactly what you mean. One thing and this is only, I could be wrong, but one thing I've found is whichever club you're in Basecamp needs to approve it in Basecamp.
Yeah.
But in Club Central, any member who has an award due to them can be approved by any of your clubs.
Yeah, I understand.
So what you can do is just contact the VPE for the club that you're mainly in and say, I'm completing this, but I'm actually going to give the award to another club, so that they know to only say you've completed in Basecamp. And the other thing for tracking that I find really useful is if all your clubs use the same tracking method. And I'm fortunate in that all my clubs use Easy Speak. So that's one central place where the meeting management tracks what I've completed.
Yeah.
And
That's a very important point, Michael, that you really need to communicate with the members and vice versa, because you don't want to steal someone else's award by not knowing that they really wanted to reserve that for one of their other clubs. And this might happen for you along the track.
And one of the other things that Gary raised, I would like also to point out, is the need for information is what drives us all to go off and find more information. Gary's need to see all that in one wonderful way drove him to find that. I'm going to try, before the end of the meeting, share something in the chat where I've developed something where I can just say, here's a member, here's what path they're doing, and it shows you what they've due to complete. It's not perfect, because some things where you have a mandatory requirement at one level will still appear as an elective when it shouldn't. So I'm good at some things, I'm not great. So necessity drives our need for information, and that gives us more information. And we tend to just soak up information, sometimes too much.
And we have the internet link for that project matrix.
Oh, great.
Form in the chat already. Thanks for that, Keith. And thanks everyone for viewing that presentation from me today. If you would like to contact me for any further help, I'll put my email in the chat box for you. And back to you, Michael.
Thank you. I am where I am today because of the hard work of the VPE, a president or a secretary, also known as the Basecamp managers, who have approved in Basecamp and recorded in Club Central all of my speeches, all of my progress. If that hadn't occurred, I would not have completed my 3 paths. We are now going to have a general open question and answer session. And this is going to go for about 15 minutes, then we'll have a break. And so you can use what questions you have now or save them for the end of the day. But let's use them now. We might be able to go home earlier unless Christina creates us more questions later. So let's have 15 minutes of just general questions or questions about those 2 wonderful presentations. And I will also say that one thing I thought about when watching Susan McDonald's presentation today, she mentioned different ways of using projects in your team meetings. I thought of another one which I should have shared with Susan earlier, managing online meetings. There is a project that will enable you to set up a Toastmasters meeting to complete a project. So speak to your VPE if that is one of the projects you want to do in level 3. I'm sorry I hadn't shared that with you earlier, Susan. I completely forgot about it.
Fine.
Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Vince.
Thanks, Michael. My question is, we use Free Toast Host in our club. I just want to know, Carole did show us how good Speakeasy is in recording the progress of a member. Does Free Toast Host have that facility, and is anyone using it? That's it.
I'm not a guru on Free Toast Host. I'm fortunate that all my clubs use EasySpeak. I suspect that there is some method in Free Toast Host to record what a member has done, but I am not the expert on that, so I'm going to defer. And does anybody have an answer for Vince? It doesn't have to be one of the general presenters. Has anyone else used Free Toast Host?
You're right, Michael. This is Carole. It does allow you to keep records within Free Toast Host, and it's a different process for you to access them as a member and as a committee member. But at current time, I don't have an example because I'm not a member of a club that uses Free Toast Host right now.
Hancock.
Yes, I'm a member of Aerospeakers Toastmasters that Vince is talking about. And yes, I find Free Toast Host compared to EasySpeak, my other club uses EasySpeak, it's a lot more clunky, as Vince says, but the only way I find out where my former progress on Free Toast Host Aerospeakers is to look at the previous agendas. And that will tell you when you've spoken or what role you've had. As a rule, that's the only way I find out my progress on the Free Toast Host, specifically the Aerospeakers one, is to actually look at the previous agendas so I can see, yes, I gave a speech on such and such a day, I was table topics master on such and such a day. But it comes back to before, Michael, when you mentioned being in dual clubs like I am, it's so hard for a VPE of either club, not that I'm one, but I'm assuming it's hard because it's hard for me to keep track of what I'm doing. When you say to a VPE of one of the clubs, I've finished level such and such, will you please prove it? And they've got no idea what speeches you did in the other club. So unless the tools like the difference between EasySpeak and Free Toast Host, I think what Vince is getting at, is there an easy way to find out a member's progress? And as I can, not being a VPE, but as just a member, the only way I can find out my progress is checking previous agendas.
Yeah.
I can monitor a member's progress through Club Central, and I know how to do that, and I enter someone's achievements through Club Central. That's not a problem. So there is a way of me doing it through Club Central. I'm aware of that.
Okay, I've shared my pathways tracker in the chat, so download that. And as I said, it's not perfect, so use it with care. I've got 3 hands up. I'm going to ask, well, Rebecca, you're first on my list, so I will ask you to unmute and ask your question.
Thank you, Michael. I have a question about the awards. In Carole's speech, she was talking about how individuals can be assigned awards within clubs, but then there was also something about one club getting an award and it can affect another club getting an award if you're a member of multiple clubs. How does that work? Are these awards individual, or do they apply more to the club than the individual?
No, this is about how your progress impacts your clubs. So every club has distinguished club program points that they need to achieve, and that just shows how healthy that club is at progressing its members along. Now, one of the criteria, which is not mentioned in the DCP points, is you need to have increased your club membership by 5 or have a base club membership of 20. If you don't get those, you're not eligible for the DCP program. But there are 6 educational awards, 2 membership awards, 2 training awards, no, 1 training award.
Michael, would you like me to showcase the dashboard?
Yeah, just showcase that, and I'll keep speaking about it. So, if you complete a speech, that goes, depending on what level of speech, it goes partly to completing a club's DCP program. Now, if you're a member of multiple clubs, you can only achieve your results for 1 club, and sometimes clubs might put themselves before the member, which is not good. One of our core about being responsive to the, this is just me going on a political difference, but being responsible to the member. Clubs will be awarded the points as soon as they're put into Club Central, and you can then choose which club gets your point. As I said, the Basecamp manager for 1 club can approve it in Basecamp, but then it's available for all clubs to use in their DCP, and it needs to be done through Club Central. Now, you get 1 level 1 award. There are 2 for level 2 awards. There's a level 3 and 4 and above. Now, you can only achieve, if you're on 2 paths and you do 2 level 1s, that does not mean you get the same 2 level 1s. Only one of those can be counted per club. So you need to share those out to make them useful, to show that the clubs are achieving their educational goals. So as I'm doing 3 parts.
So I guess it's a bit more streamlined for people like me who are a member of 1 club.
Yes, but
a little
if you're
less complicated.
It is a little bit less complicated, but just be aware, towards the end of June, all the clubs want to get their DCP points in, and it gets a little bit of horse trading. You know, VPE saying, can you do a speech very quickly because you're almost finished? It's because they want to show that they are achieving their educational goals. It's like a KPI for a club.
Yes. Yep, that's making more sense now. Thank you so much for that answer. I appreciate it.
Okay, Marlene, you've next one with your hand up.
Yeah, hi there.
I started at my local club in was December 2019. I didn't do much last year through the COVID lockdown because I wasn't comfortable with trying to do things on Zoom, but I joined as a proper member when we got back to live face-to-face sessions this year, which was in, I think, February. And I was told to do the pathways online, and if I had any questions, then to ask whoever it was that told me about it, but never been taught any of this. So this is all really new for me, and I'm thinking now I'm halfway through the year. I've done 2 speeches, about to do my 3rd. I've done many roles. Every week pretty much I've taken on a new role, be it table topics, Harkmaster, just several different things. Not been told that's never been recorded, not been told to record it, had no idea I had to record it on pathways, and yeah, I have no idea of any of this. I've not really done anything properly. So I'm just a bit concerned. There's a lot of new members that have come on board just in the last couple of months. Are they not being taught by anybody how to do this properly? Like I haven't. So how do we get around that one?
Yep, it's one of the things that we need to emphasise to all executive members is to first of all, attend your club officer training, because that's where they reinforce what club officers are supposed to be doing. And one thing that every member of the executive should be aware of is what is the onboarding process for new members, because everyone should be involved in that. And it's not just club executives, it's also experienced members. We are an organisation that renews our executives every year. We renew our presentations, and that's a good thing because it brings in new ideas. It's a bad thing because people move out and don't continue to teach or to share their knowledge. People like Carole, Christina, Susan have shared their knowledge over the years, even though they're no longer in executive roles. They may be in executive roles, but they're sharing it wider. And we need to encourage that for all members. And that includes everyone here. Take your experiences and share them.
Yeah.
And there is no perfect onboarding of a new member. We need to share those ideas. And that's one of the reasons why we have these educational sessions, to share those ideas and to hopefully raise the standard, because everybody here now knows a little bit more that they can share with other members.
How often do you have these educational sessions? This is the first one I've been aware of.
We do these every month.
Oh, really?
Usually on the first weekend of the month.
Yeah.
We've improved our advertising of it, which is obvious because we've now got 62 people. I think the last one we had 25. So it's Graham as our new incoming leader will continue the great work that Christina's done, which has continued the great work that Carole started. So we are growing, we are improving, but it needs people to attend.
Can I add something for you, Marlene? In the chat panel, I've put in the link where you can find a lot of really useful tools for club officers that have been there for a while in Toastmasters International. But I had a brief look for the club leadership workbook or handbook, and that seems to be not available, but there are other good resources there from that link.
Right.
And can I just add something too, Marlene? I shared your concerns about all this information that's out there that we don't know about. And that was the inspiration for my performance leadership, which Michael mentioned in the beginning. And I did a series of sessions on introductory training for new Toastmasters.
Oh, okay.
That's also available on the YouTube channel too.
Yeah.
So
one last question from Deborah, because I just realised I've been watching the South Australian time, not the Victorian time. So, Deborah, what's your question very quickly?
Okay. Thanks for that, Michael. I just want to say that I'm in a similar boat to Marlene. Have been a member for a couple of years now. I feel as though it's been a very rocky time over the last couple of years. When I first started, Pathways was fairly new to the system, whereas experienced Toastmasters didn't have a lot of knowledge about it or weren't able to share that knowledge. And then we've been through the 12 months of COVID and Zoom and the collapse of perhaps many clubs and communications. And I feel as though I've learned a lot today, and it's been a situation that I've wanted to be in, but I haven't been able to for one reason or another. I haven't been able to attend any of the previous ones. My couple of my questions have been answered in that last bit of conversation. I just want to clarify, I'm a member of one club and I'm doing one pathway. I had got sort of a little bit tired with it, and I wondered whether that was because of my lack of education, and I'm concerned now that we have a new club with a lot of new members and we really need to get that information out there. So thank you. Thank you to everybody who's put this together. It's really, really important. And I'll certainly be pushing it to a lot of other, a lot of our newer members who have also new members have taken on executive roles. So they're not going to have the experience of all the pathways situation before even trying to pass that information on. So they're very brave to take it on, but we are a club of very new members because of the whole Zoom collapse thing. I just wanted to clarify that if I was a member of 2 or 3 clubs, do I follow one path in one club and then in a different club, a different path, or can they cross-reference? Or if I visit another club, can a speech or a participation role or whatever in that club visiting situation, can that be marked off on my pathways? Because I've got no idea where I'm at with my pathways. Okay. I will now need to go in and try and figure it out from past easy speak references.
Okay, very quickly. Yes, you can do club speeches from a single path in multiple clubs. You can swap, if you're in multiple clubs, swap and change according to your feeling. So you can give 2 parts of a project, if it has 2 speeches, in 2 different clubs. There is no problems there. You can do multiple parts, you can do one path, you can do however you like it. You're in control of your education. Mm-hmm. So I'm just aware of the time, and we're supposed to be supposed to be going to a break.
Can I just finish off on that then? Who decides where the demerit points go, where the points go to? Yeah, then. Well,
the reality is you should decide by speaking to the 2 VPEs, and they can cross-check depending on how you do it as to what you've achieved.
I initially thought somebody else does that for me. Somebody else has that role, and I don't need to record my speeches. I don't need to record all that. But obviously, I've learned that now.
Well, when you're in base camp, you're logging on as one club, and that VPE will get a message when you've completed that path, that level. So the VPE of your current club, whichever club you're in, will get a message to say this person has completed this level, and they will go into base camp to confirm it. Okay.
And that's only if you've got somebody that knows what they're doing. Yeah.
And we're trying to give that information out. Let's go for let's have a shorter break. I'm just realised it's 10:40 now, and we're supposed to be listening to Christina, but we do have a Q&A session at the end. So let's have a 5-minute break. We'll come back in 5 minutes. Quickly do whatever you do during a break.